Welcome back to Multiversal Studios. Have you guys ever wondered what lies beyond our world? Well, today we're diving into the eerie and captivating world of the Shadow Realm from Yugioh. But before we do, you guys know the drill. Make sure you hit that like button and subscribe. The Shadow Realm is one of the most intriguing and mysterious aspects of the Yugioh universe. Introduced as a place of darkness and danger, it's where the stakes of a duel could mean more than just losing your cards. You could lose your actual soul. But let's look at how this concept of the Shadow Realm evolved and made an impact on the series. From its very early introduction, we see Atem passing out punishment games left, right and center in Yu-Gi-Oh! Season 0. Atem casually used shadow games in order to teach people a lesson using the power of his Millennium Puzzle. One thing that's remained consistent is that when a shadow game begins, even though there's one person who dictates the rules of the shadow game, the rules always apply equally and fairly between the two parties involved. For example, the first time we ever see a shadow game being played is when Atem challenges Yugioh to a shadow game where each person must take turns drawing from a pack of cards. The higher the number, the better, as you can advance further than the opponent. Now this game is purely based on chance. Now some might argue that Atem has the advantage due to the Millennium Puzzle. However, I believe that's not the case, and that as soon as the shadow game has started, any forms of cheating leads to a penalty game, just like Atem did to Yugioh. Now that's not to say you can't bend the shadow game in order to benefit yourself. For example, against Mai in the anime, Marek used a shadow game where each time a monster is destroyed, the memory of one of your closest friends and family is taken with that monster. Now even though the rules apply to both Marek and Mai had people that she treasures, whereas Marek had no one that he cared about. So losing a monster to Marek meant nothing to him. Now originally in the Japanese version, characters face actual death or severe punishments, whereas in the anime, it usually led to the character having their souls taken or put in a perpetual punishment game like Mai was after getting defeated by Marek. Now this was a more child-friendly version of what actually occurred in the manga. However, it was still, in my opinion, equally terrifying. The anime equivalent of the Shadow Realm might not be as gruesome or as painful as it was in the manga. However, in the anime, they replaced the gore and the pain with psychological damage. It was well established that Mai Valentine had some kind of trauma growing up, as she was always alone. She was orphaned as a kid by her parents, and growing up she had no friends and family to rely on. Now in Duelist Kingdom and Battle City, she grew an attachment to Yugi and his friends. However, Marek did the one thing that she was afraid of the most and ripped those memories out of her mind, leaving her in the shadows, literally, and reliving her worst nightmares. This could be argued to be as bad as physical pain, which she endured in the manga version. The Shadow Realm isn't just a place, it's a psychological battlefield. The fear of losing one's soul adds immense pressure, pushing each of the duelists to their limits, both mentally and emotionally. For example, when Kaiba was dueling Pegasus to save his little brother Mokuba, he knew the consequences of losing. He knew deep inside that he wouldn't get another chance to save Mokuba, as his soul was about to be captured. He had failed and fallen victim to Pegasus' shadow game. Now, growing up, I've always loved the concept of the Shadow Realm. However, it's not all sunshine and roses. While the Shadow Realm added immense drama, its frequent use became somewhat predictable. When every major antagonist resorted to the Shadow Realm, the impact of it kind of wore off after a while, and it kind of became the new norm. For example, you lose a duel and you go to the Shadow Realm, and that's pretty much the case in every major duel against the villain. Now, instead of only relying on the Shadow Realm, they could have explored new ways or more imaginative forms of conflict. For example, when Grandpa Moto was still in his prime, he was challenged to a shadow game by Duke Devlin's father, who is known as Mr. Clown. Now they played a game called the Devil's Board Game. Now each of them bet several years of their life So when Mr. Clown lost to Grandpa Moto, Mr. Clown lost 50 years of his life. Now, isn't that super cool and original? Almost like it's permanent damage. Someone has aged 50 years. I think exploring this kind of punishment is a lot more interesting than pretty much falling asleep until the main protagonist beats the bad guy and they all wake up again. I want to see some consequences. I want to see things like, after Pegasus had defeated Seto Kaiba, instead of just taking his soul, what if he was put through a punishment loop where he sees Mokuba being tortured over and over again, where he is stood there helpless to save his little brother? Now I know this is a bit much for a kids show, but at the end of the day, this is the Shadow Realm. Anything can happen. Any punishment can be made to happen. The Shadow Realm is meant to exploit your weaknesses, the things you fear the most. You're not supposed to wake up from the Shadow Realm and be fine. You need to have taken on some kind of damage, so the next time you enter a Shadow game, you know the stakes. Now imagine if Yugioh opened the doors and ventured outside of the box beyond the Shadow Realm. I'm talking about ancient curses that affected the duelists, enchanted artifacts outside of the Millennium items with unique powers, just like we spoke about when it came to the Devil's board game, or even the Capsule Monsters board game, pushing the boat out with other dimensions with their own rules and stakes. There's just an endless amount of things that could have been explored, so much potential, and by doing this and expanding the supernatural elements, characters like Taya and Tristan could have more substantial story arcs, just like they did in Yu-Gi-Oh! Season 0. They could face their own unique challenges, growing and evolving alongside of Yugi and Joey, adding more layers to their relationships and individual storylines. What do you guys think? Is the Shadow Realm essential, or could the series have thrived with more variety? Share your thoughts in the comments down below, and again, don't forget to like and subscribe for more Yu-Gi-Oh! Videos. Until next time guys.